Welcome back to Artist to Artist. Today we're going to sit down and talk to Dom. Hey, Dom.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm good.
I'm feeling great. How are you? Great.
Good. Thanks for.
Good to hear.
I'm glad we're talking over each other already. It's a good start.
Let's do that.
So, are you ready to get into the questions?
Let's get into the questions.
First of all, how do we know each other?
It's a great question. We used to rent a studio space together, and they're like, there's this guy, Ahmed, that works here now. And I was like, I think you mean Ahmed. And they're like, no, it's Ahmed. I was like, I don't think so.
So, can you describe yourself?
Well, it's tough, man,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't I don't think of myself that often. I was actually thinking about this earlier because I knew we were doing this thing and it's as an artist and like I've never thought of myself as an artist
Mm-hmm.
because I think once you put yourself in some kind of like label, you have to navigate around it. I'm a guy just trying to make his way through the world, doing the best he can.
That was the correct answer. You got that one right. What is it that you would say you do?
These are hard questions. What do I do? I drink a lot of coffee, hang out with my family a lot. Try to live a peaceful life.
You're 2 for 2 so far. I can keep the score if you want, or just let you answer these.
I want like points at the bottom.
All right, we'll
Ding.
have that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've earned that. Now that we're getting to easier questions because they're not about you, what is art?
I don't know. I think art just is something that evokes emotion from somebody that's created for that purpose.
What's a beautiful thing you've seen recently?
Well, I we were just in Big Sur and just kind of driving down the highway one there on the coast
Hmm.
and looking out into the ocean, and there was nothing, over the course of a few days. You never saw anything out there. And I thought that was a pretty beautiful thing.
What is creativity?
I think that is when you take input and then, transpose it into something different. I do this thing where I take a song and I'll try to recreate exactly the same song, but without like looking at the chords and the notes and everything. Never have I come even close to reproducing it exactly. And I think that's kind of a beautiful thing.
If you were gonna have a lower third or a label under your name, what would you put under your name?
I like this. What I want it to be is regular person.
I feel
Yeah.
like you don't like being labeled, so forced to label
Yeah.
yourself. I was curious what you'd actually say. What scares you artistically?
Strangely, I think it is finishing something. I always thrive on the passion that I have when I'm like making something. I don't want it to end, I guess. It's like, riding the high. You never want it to go away.
I would have thought you'd say bees.
Also, bees, terrifying.
What's the hardest thing about making art?
I maybe finding that passion. There are times when, people ask for something or want something, and it's like, go, be an artist now. And you're just completely uninspired and dispassionate. It just makes it impossible to work.
So, what do you typically do to get out of that kind of rut, or how do you?
Yeah, it's kind of like the eureka situation where, the moment you relax is when it comes to you.
When did you realize you were creative?
In high school, as a senior, I got most uniquely dressed.
I would not have guessed that.
The reason was because I did not conform to the way everyone else was doing things.
What inspires you?
Smart people, smart ideas, things that are unusual and unique.
Do you have any recommendations in general?
Um, yeah, usually I would recommend something for someone who I know.
How about a recommendation for Ahmed Iqbal?
Yeah, you gotta come see the band Chonk.
Nice. And this is.
Yeah, this is a jam band that I'm in with a bunch of creative artists. A lot of us are multi-instrumentalists, and it's just a really good time.
Sometimes the game puts you in the kind of place where you don't recognize the faces set ablaze.
We have fun, speak the language of music to each other. It's an amazing thing.
We'll try to put some links and maybe some clips into this video too.
Yeah, there you go. Our
Nice.
our album drops April 4th.
How can people become better artists?
Practice, just like anything else. You have to put in work and time and make gazillion mistakes, and that's that's the only way to learn to do anything.
Do you have a favorite color?
Blue.
Do you have a favorite sound?
I have a lot of favorite sounds. My son laughing, the crack of a baseball bat,
Hmm.
or Susan Tedeschi singing.
Why do you make art?
It's part passion for doing something and gaining knowledge to try to master something, or to at least be, moderately passable at something. You have to just keep, going, doing. There's a Japanese business philosophy that's called Kaizen,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like getting increasingly better and more efficient at things. And that's kind of like a life philosophy for me.
How can people see or hear more of your art?
Well, I just took down my website, so don't go there. One of our albums will be out on Spotify, which is pretty awesome. I'm in 3 bands now, so you can come to see one of these bands at any point. I do a lot of work for the Washington Coalition for Police Accountability, and a lot of that is, the art of writing. StonechildPodcast.com.
And I know a lot of your work is out there without your name written across the front of it.
So back in the day, I did, I used to be really good at prototyping things, and I did T-Mobile's first visual voicemail prototype.
Hmm.
And I also did so basically what you see now, like Netflix, how that looks on your TV. I did that.
I think you're being humble because one of your greatest claims to fame, when you worked
Uh-uh.
with the Seattle Mariners, you made the GIF of the little girl eating
Oh,
cotton candy.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, Cotton Candy Girl. That was me. Yeah, that is my crowning achievement. I can't believe I forgot that.
What is your favorite way to experience art?
I mean, I love concerts. I like museums. To be immersed in it in some fashion.
Do you think that virtual reality is ever going to be able to replicate that?
I do. Um, I'm a big computer technology person, and even now, like I've played a few VR games, and you lose your sense of self sometimes, and it's incredible. I mean, that's what it is. It might even be better, than the real thing.
What does all great art have in common?
You know what it does for me is it inspires me to do something. Usually it's like, dang, I wish I could do something like that, right?
What are your thoughts on artificial intelligence?
Greatest invention humanity has achieved. Now it's such an integral part of my life that to not have it, I can't even imagine going back to that world. It helps me learn. It helps me create. It helps me explore. It helps me map out my day. It helps me write. It takes away the blank page part of creativity. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal tool. For example, I got an ice cream maker for Christmas, and it's been my guide to making ice cream. I'll type in, I'm like, oh, I want to make, cardamom banana ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, here you go. Here's the recipe immediately. Here's how, like, step by step, how you make this ice cream. And we work together. I'll say, hey, this ice cream came out kind of icy.
Huh.
and it'll remember. And then the next recipe it gives me, it considers those things.
Who are your favorite artists?
I'm a big fan of the singer-songwriter artists, Van Morrison or the Beatles, like James Taylor, Cat Stevens, big one. I like filmmakers like the Coen brothers and Panos Kazantzakis, I think his name is, something like that. He made this movie called Mandy, which is one of my favorites of the last 20 years.
What do you wish people would do more?
Make mistakes and admit that they failed and learn from that.
How do you feel when you make art?
Stressed and frustrated and miserable.
If you are creating something and you don't feel those like difficult, like the stress feelings, do you kind of think to yourself that you're not doing it right?
I feel like the end product won't be very good
Hmm.
because there's no struggle. I think I read an interview with the Breaking Bad writers, and so they would literally try to paint themselves in a corner and then have to figure out a way to get out of it. And I think that that's a great way to find your most creative space.
What are your plans with art in the future?
Well, my grand idea is to take up watercolor when I'm done with this current version of life, when I'm moving on to my next chapter. I'll probably always be making music.
Who should decide what art is?
Nobody. This is the whole putting things in a box issue that I have. People like what they like and don't like what they don't like. So
Would you like me to draw anything for you?
let's see. I could use a profile refresh.
Nice. I'll show what I already drew as your profile picture, and then I'll draw you a new one.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Are there any questions you have for me?
Yeah. Tell me why I hate that I love your art.
Huh. I think it's probably because you view me as like a buddy or chum.
Uh-huh.
You know my general mentality is just to like rush into things and not plan it too much. And
Hmm.
when I make stuff that just occurs, like you've seen, I've drawn while we're talking or doing other
Yeah.
stuff, and it's like ends up actually as something interesting. I think
Yeah.
because it's so different from your process, I think that's why it creates tension for you.
Huh. Maybe.
Um,
But because I have other friends that make things, and I'm just like, wow, I'm like I'm not surprised that I like it. I
uh-huh.
don't know why I'm surprised. Why am I surprised?
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for you. I'm not sure.
Dang. I think it's because I like it a lot.
Huh.
Maybe that's what it is.
And that troubles you somehow?
It troubles me somehow. You hit a nerve in me.
Are there any questions I should have asked you?
What are you? This is like your art right now, right? So what are you deriving from these interviews?
Specifically with these interviews, I think people are like art in itself. I think there's just so
Yeah.
much like how people like art is such a broad term, like you've already identified. It can mean so much to different people. I think there's certain people who are uncomfortable even defining what they do as art. And part of it's to encourage them to just create more. I think the world's a better
Hmm.
place when people create more. And people watching it, I'm hopeful that they see it and say, like, well, I could do that, or I should try something that I'm into. I find inspiration from seeing people do all sorts of different things, and each one of their reasons for doing it kind of motivates me to make more of my own stuff. Is there anything you want to say directly to the camera, to all the people out there?
Um, do your best.
It's very
That's
school
it.
teachery. I love it.
Yeah, that's what I tell my son all the time. And yeah, I try to be like, the coach and give like the big pep talk. One I tried to tell him the other day, but I'm so uninspiring as a speaker. You got to give 100%, uh, because no one ever regrets doing that, right?
Hmm.
If you give it your all and you fail, then like at least you gave it your all, right? But if you only half tried, and failed, then you're like, there was more in the tank. I could have done something else.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to have that.
That was a great interview, Dom. You did a great job.
Thanks.
Let me do
Sorry.
a close. No. That was on brand.
Yeah.
Thanks to Dom for sitting down for an artist-to-artist interview with me.
Thank you.
And
That was my cue, right?
Yep, that was it.
Yeah.
And we'll be back with another artist-to-artist soon. Thanks. Sweet. I'm gonna do the whole name. Campese?
Sure.
I mean, that is how you pronounce your name, right? Thanks for correcting my name incorrectly.
Well, when you're right, you're right.
What crimes have you committed recently?
Recently?
This is all going to be in. I'm not doing any edits.
Yeah, don't do it. Were you recording that one? Oh,
yeah.
It says so. Wait, you're recording this?